Hi fashion designer and welcome. It's been a while since I've made a tutorial in this channel, but lately I've been wanting to make a simple pencil skirt that I actually saw on Pinterest. So if you are a beginner, this tutorial is definitely for you and you're new into sewing. I'm going to be showing you from start to finish on how to draft a simple basic skirt pattern, and I'm also going to share with you how to take your accurate body measurements. But before we waste any time, just make sure that you give the tutorial a thumbs up and also share. So let's get started. So we're going to start by taking our body measurement as promised. To make sure you place a string around your waist and also on the hip line. So what you're going to do first is to measure around your highest waist, which is under the rib cage. So this is where I placed my string, and make sure that the measuring tape is not tight but it moves freely. Also, again, around the hip line, make sure that your measuring tape sits parallel towards the floor and it's not moving. I'm going to lower my strip right on the around the belly button, because you need to measure the distance from your lower waist to the hip line, and mine is around 9 inches. And I'm going to put back the string around the highest waist because I need to measure the length. Now, when you measure the length, do not bend your knees like this. It's not good. But stand straight and make sure that you press the measuring tape against your skin. Press it and then continue measuring to the desired length. And just like that, you have all your measurements. So you need to grab a pattern paper and then mark 2 lines, one vertical and the other one horizontal. So the horizontal line is going to be a waist line. Now from the waistline, you're going to measure now the distance between your lower waist to hip line. Okay, so mine is around 8.5 inches. So this measurement can differ to 9 inches or 9.5. And this line is going to be referred as the hip line. Now you're going to measure from the waist, which is your highest waist now, which is under the rib cage, to the desired length, and mine is around 27 inches. I want my skirt to be long, just like you saw on the picture. Now to place our horizontal measurement, you're going to measure 1/4 of your waist round plus 1 inch for the dot, and you're going to place it right there. And now for the hip area, you're going to measure 1/4 of your hip round circumference, and you're going to place it right on the hip line. Now once you're done, you want to connect the 2 points, the hip line and also the waistline. Now we're going to extend the line all the way to the hemline. If you want your skirt to be just straight, you can leave it like that. But then let's move on to the waistline. You're going to measure half of your waistline here and mark the center point. And then from here now, you're going to impute your dot 1/2 inch on one side and 1/2 inch onto the other side. Now the center dot leg is going to be around 4 inches long for the front pattern. And then I'm going to connect these lines to form a dot. And just like that, you're going to go ahead now and shape the waist. You're going to lower this by 1/2 inch, right? And then reconnect it back to the waistline. Now doing this is to prevent any excess fabric from the waistline as you're wearing your skirt. So the first line, we're not going to make use of it. Now going back to the hemline, I'm going to taper my skirt and I'm going to go in by 1.5 inches. Now you can go as far as 2 inches at this point, depending how tapered you want your skirt to be. And don't forget that this front pattern is going to be cut on fold. Now I want to go ahead now and cut out your front pattern. And please take note that this pattern have no seam allowance. I haven't added any seam allowance yet. So far, you just drafted the pattern. So the next thing is you need to draft the back pattern. Take the front pattern and a new pattern paper and trace it all out. There is a slight difference between the front and the back pattern, but I will explain all of that into the next lesson. Now over here, I'm going to go ahead and take my front pattern. Please make sure that you do mark the lines. Now right on this pattern, I'm going to go up a little bit by 1/2 inch. This is to help the coverage for the back side. It's to accommodate the back side of your skirt. And then once you are done, please mark your lines. This one is going to be the new waistline for the back pattern. To avoid any gaping that usually happens around the back, I'm going to go in right here by 1/2 inch. Now, if you do not have this problem, there's no need for you to do this, but I usually do this to avoid any gaping right on the zipper area and also around the waist. So from this line over here, I'm not going to make use of it. And now we're going to go ahead and add zip allowance. Right from this line, I'm going to add zip allowance of around 1 inch or 2.5 centimeters. And once you're done, please make sure you label your lines. Now for the dart, again, you're going to measure 1/2 of your waist around this from this point and then mark your dart placement. Mine is around 4 inches. And then the dart width or the dart leg for the back is going to be 4.5 inches. And then just like that, you're going to create your dart placement. I'm going to place 1/2 inch on one side and 1/2 inch onto the other side. And then just like that, you are done drafting your back pattern. Go ahead and cut it out. Now I've drafted the back and the front pattern, and as you can see, there is a slight difference. The back one is a bit higher by 1/2 inch, and right on the zipper area, it goes in a little bit by 1/2 inch. To create the waistband, it's very easy. I'm just going to fold or close down this dart just like this. And then go ahead now and mark around 1.5. That's the width of my waistband, or around 4 centimeters wide. And then once you're done over here, I just want to go ahead and close out the waistband and then cut it out. Now remember that once you're done, you still need to add seam allowance on the skirt, including around the waistband. Now also mark that this waistband is going to be cut on fold. I'm going to open up the dart, which makes it easier to transfer the dart also onto fabric. Now we are done with the front pattern. Now go ahead and do the same thing for the back pattern. I'm going to close down the dart and mark around 1.5 or 4 centimeters for the waistband. Now you will need to add seam allowance, except on the zip allowance. I'm going to go ahead and add 1 cm or 1/2 inch. And then for the front pattern, I'm going to add 1/2 inch around the pattern, except on the center front. Now for the front pattern over here, you need to add 1/2 inch on the waistline, including on the side seam. And then for the hemline, you will need to add around 1 inches for folding. Then for the back pattern, make sure that you do add seam allowance the same on the front pattern. On the waistline, add 1/2 inch. And also for the dart, I'm just going to trace it out. I'm not going to add seam. And side seam, add 1/2 inch, and also 1 inch for the hemline on the skirt. With this pattern, you can make different types of skirt as shown here on the screen. That is why I enjoy making this pattern. As for me, see you on the next one.